Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Flint Institute of Arts Museum and Art School. Welcome to your museum. I'm Tracy Glab, Executive Director, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 18th Annual Community Gala to celebrate two exhibitions, Romare Bearden, Artist as Activist and Visionary, and We Loved the Swag from Black Bottom Until Now. And I think I just saw Judy come in the door. I don't know, is that Judy? Yes. So Judy Bowman, who is a one-time Flint resident, you might have known her as Judy McReynolds, and longtime Detroit native, Judy is here tonight. So please give her a round of applause as she makes her way. Our evening begins with a lecture by co-director of the Romare Bearden Foundation, Diedra Harris-Kelley. Before I invite her to the stage, I would like to thank our community gala sponsors. Thank you for your outstanding support. Also, I would like to thank the McCombs Family Flint Fund of the Community Foundation of Greater Flint for their sponsorship of the exhibition. And thank you, all of you, citizens of Genesee County, for the Genesee County Arts, Education, and Cultural Enrichment Millage, which provides free admission to the FIA for Genesee County residents every day of the week. Thank you to Huntington Bank for sponsoring Huntington Free Saturdays, which allows everyone free admission beyond the county border to our galleries on Saturdays. And since the exhibition is opening tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, will also be a free Huntington Day, thanks to Huntington. I would also like to thank the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation for everything that they do for the FIA and making all kinds of programs possible for us, so thank you. Funds raised by the Community Gala, now in its 18th year, take that in for a second, has been used to support exhibitions of African American, African, and African diaspora art, ranging from photography, textiles, painting, sculpture, and works on paper. In 2017 and 2022, funds that supported two exhibitions of photography by Jerry Taliaferro, Women of a New Tribe, and Sons Seeing the Modern African American Male, made it possible for the 147 photographs of men and women in our community to be entered into the permanent collection of the FIA. The Women of a New Tribe photographs are currently on view in the administration wing and on the first and second floors. In 2019, the first purchase of a work that wasn't in a gala exhibition was made, a portrait by Darius Stewart, on view right now in our graphics gallery hallway. All of our galleries are open tonight. You can feel free to walk down there. Just no food or drink. And this purchase would kick off an annual purchase by the Community Gala, including works by Stephen Towns, Ed Watkins, who's also in the audience tonight, Keith Duncan, and our Judy Bowman work, which is also in the exhibition. And then from last year's exhibition, you may remember this monumental work by Mario Moore, yes, which is now on view in the FIA lobby. I would like to thank all of you for your continuing to support the Community Gala, because you can see what is happening with the funds that you are donating and sponsorship money are going toward. So thank you. It's building a legacy for our future. Speaking of that, I would like to invite the Gala Committee co-chairs, Teresa Stevens-Locke and Omar Sims, as well, Glenn Wilson, they're all already up here, Glenn Wilson of Communities First, who is our signature sponsor, and they're going to come to the podium and say a few words. But before I go, please silence your electronic devices. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Let's try that again. Good evening. Good evening. Look around this room. You are gorgeous, and thank you for coming out to our 18th annual gala. Greg Viner will be proud to see. Oh, there's Greg. Greg, look around. You see the folks here? Wow. You know, I just want to say we're excited to welcome Miss Diedra Harris, say it again, Kelley. She's the co-director of the Romare Bearden Foundation. We can't wait to hear more about what you're working on through the writings and cartoons. We know you will greatly enjoy this evening lecture as well as the open exhibit. Now, we would like to take this time, you know, people see me and Teresa up here, but guess what? This wouldn't be possible without an awesome committee. If you're a committee member, please stand up. Please stand up. Don't make me call you out. They definitely deserve a round of applause for dealing with me. And so with that, I just want to say thank you, and we're going to turn it over to Teresa right now.
How about that?
Okay.
Oh my, I just want to gaze. You guys are looking good. We start this journey in August, and we meet once a month. So I'm really trying to, all that wonderful committee that you saw, ask them about signing up to be on this committee, because it is an amazing committee. Tonight would not be possible without our sponsors and the support of our community. We would like to thank you all for your commitment to the Community Gala and the Flint Institute of Arts Museum plus Art School. Thank you so very much. And it's today I'd like to announce, I know the committee knows, but thanks to your support, we have raised more than $80,000. I have to tell you, when we had our first meeting and we were on Zoom, and the committee, we were talking about what was going to be our goal. And somebody put, well, we made about 60,000 last year, so a little over 60. How about let's do 60? I said, let's do 75. And they were looking at me like, I said to somebody else, like, what's up with that chick? But they weren't thinking chick, okay? They just kind of sat there and like, oh, wow, what did I sign up for? But it is amazing that we're at this place, and it's because of you. And some that are not here, but the sponsors were fabulous. Wasn't it great to have that complimentary sponsor, Huntington Bank, do the valet for you? Thank you so much. I know Greg hates to see me. You know, he says, I missed you on the board. I said, do you miss me enough to give to the gala? Thank you so much. Engaging with the entire Flint and Genesee County community is an important part of the FIA's mission, and also speaks to the mission of our signature and presenting sponsor, Communities First. I'm going to pause for you to clap for the Communities First, Glenn Wilson, but please, Miss Essence Wilson, will you stand, please? Essence, stand up.
I was gonna have her stand up. Thank you so much. Glad to be here. Thank you, Teresa, Tracy, Omar, Teresa, everybody on the committee. I used to serve on the committee until I found out that Essence and I were both serving on the committee, and we both know we don't have time to serve on the committee together. And so, but thank you so much for everyone and the work that you're doing to bring this wonderful event. Because I was on the committee for probably several years previously, so it's been amazing to see the progression. Also, just want to thank our Communities First board members that are here as well. I think it's Karma Lewis, our board chair, Jason Paulatier, and then also Karma Lewis as well. So thank you for them always being along for this journey, for us supporting things. At Communities First, our mission is to build healthy, vibrant communities through economic development, affordable housing, and innovative programming. We believe in the importance of supporting programs that reach into our community in new and in meaningful ways. We do this by supporting events like the Community Gala and partnering with the FIA on our African American film series. With similar missions and goals, we are able to connect and show the true power of community as an action word. We hope to see you, shameless plug, at the next African American film series on February 13th, so put that on your calendars. Here at the FIA galleries are connecting with visual arts as well. Don't forget that admission is free always to FIA for all Genesee County residents, and thanks to the Arts, Education, and Cultural Millage. We are happy to continue our partnership with the FIA for the third year, being the presenting sponsor of this year's Community Gala. Thank you so much once again for letting us be a part. It is very exciting. I know you all are gonna have a good time with the music. The food is, I'm pretty sure, is gonna be delicious. So hopefully everybody, so be safe, on your way home and everything that you're doing, but make sure you connect with people. I always tell this, don't go somewhere if you're not gonna connect with somebody you don't know. So if you can today, take that moment, just take a 1 second. If you make eye contact with somebody you don't know, just walk up to them and introduce yourself, because our community is only going to thrive with us thriving, knowing each other, and to try to do something to have collective impact. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn mentioned visiting the FIA gallery. I'm not a model, but can y'all read? Now, I got a commissioner in here. Commissioner Avery. Read this for me, Commissioner Avery. You can't read, right? Read this for me.
Art brings us together.
Say it again for me.
Art brings us together.
Is Commissioner Brown here? What about Commissioner Wayhill? I thought I saw him. Read this for me, Commissioner Wayhill.
Art brings us together, Omar.
So, since art brings us together, what I want you to do when you leave here, make sure you visit our gallery and buy t-shirt. And also, here's the thing. Make sure, my mom, she's okay with me. Don't feel sorry for her. She birthed me, so she's fine, all right? I know y'all feeling sorry for her. Don't feel sorry for her. But anyhow, my mom will always say, make sure you guys visit the Cliff Johnson and Power Arts View is here through March 16th. This artwork features works by Joseph that focus on themes of protest and civil rights. And you know Flint is the home of protest and civil rights, so we've done a lot. So the artists will get a chance to shine. People like Mr. Eddie Watkins, Flint's home. So make sure, what are you guys gonna do? You're gonna visit what when you leave here? Yeah. And then you go by the Capitol, because I got some friends over at the Capitol here too, so we support each other, all right? Tracy, anything else?
No,
Teresa, anything else?
I got a few words, okay?
Okay, thanks. But make sure you...
I do feel sorry for you, Mr. Sims. And you need to know it was hard work trying to keep him together, but this is how we roll. I would like to also mention, to take a moment for you to remind you how easy it is and affordable it is to join the FIA. Membership starts at only $30. Now, I don't have a sign like my partner, but $30. But it's $30, but there's several brochures all over the museum today. And I it is one of your best investments you can make. It's free. It allows you free admission to the museum any day of the week, in addition to discounts in the museum shop, the art school, and the Palette Cafe. Invitations to the lectures and special events and so much more. This place has so much to offer, and this is what the Community Gala is about, to remind you of everything that it has to offer. My partner was supposed to mention about the African American and African Diaspora Art Gallery, a permanent gallery in this museum for you. Again, look for those membership brochures. If you're not a member, they're on the tables. Thank you again for coming, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.
Oh my God. So Glenn just whispered in my ear that anyone who signs up tonight, the Communities First is taking half of that amount. So, or paying for half of that amount. So it's only $15 tonight. So thank you. Wow. That was unexpected. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. So you have do it. Thank you, Teresa, Omar, and Glenn. And let's just have another round of applause for our signature sponsor, Communities First. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Diedra Harris-Kelley, the co-director of the Romare Bearden Foundation, is here to help us kick off the opening of the Romare Bearden exhibition at the Flint Institute of Arts. Harris-Kelley earned a BA in art from California State University, Long Beach, and an MFA from University of Michigan. She currently teaches a seminar course at BarnardCollege and has taught studio art at New York University, Parsons School of Design Studio Program, and for alternative high school and elementary school programs. She has also conducted professional development workshops and lectures on art. She is the author of Revisiting Romare Bearden's Art of Improvisation, published in Uptown Conversation, The New Jazz Studies, published by Columbia University in 2006. She is also was a member of the curatorial team of jazz at Lincoln Center from 2009 to 2012. Please join me in a warm Flint welcome for Diedra Harris-Kelley.
Well, I will also say, look at you. Look at all of you. Beautiful. Beautiful people in a beautiful place. Can I admit I've never been to Flint and get out of here safely? I've never been to Flint, but it is a beautiful place. And I have to say thank you to all of the staff and Director Glab for inviting me to come and for all of the work that they did to get Bearden's legacy here in Flint so that I could get up here and see it. But also, I want to give a shout out to Matthew and those folks in the Special Projects Department, Education, because the activity that they developed really hit it out of the park. I want to take it home with me. So make sure that you take a look at that. When they described it to me, I had no idea what they had in mind, but they did a really, really wonderful job with that. And also, a particular shout out to Emily here, because she really had to wrangle my schedule and do all sorts of things, but I came and it's been just a lovely experience being here, so thank you. These folks are doing wonderful, wonderful work, so bravo for that. And thank you all for letting me come between you and all the festivities that are out there. So I will try not to hold you too long, but I have a lot to say. I've been with the Bearden Foundation for a very long time, and my aunt was the person who started the Romare Bearden Foundation in New York City. Nanette Bearden, who's the wife of Romare Bearden. She started the foundation just a few years after Romare passed away as a way to celebrate his legacy and to continue some of the work and ideals that he had started. So shout out to Nanette and Romare, and all of you for being here this evening. All right, and I'm not even going to play. I'm going to put my glasses on. Oh, and I also want to say congratulations to Miss Judy Bowman. Your work is fabulous, fabulous. And such a stroke of genius to have it paired with Romare Bearden. It really, both of you are highlighting each other in such a wonderful way. I appreciate that. Okay, let's not mess it up with bad tech here, because, all right, he told me turn it on. All right. Okay, let's see. There's Mr. Romare Bearden. Oh, okay. Got the paparazzi down here, all right. So the title of the show, Romare Bearden, Artist as Activist and Visionary. There are several ways in which Bearden explored activism in his life. Directly using his standing and access in the art world to advocate for fair representation of artists of color in museums and galleries. He would be spotted on the picket lines and famously wrote letters, one protesting the lack of artists in the Metropolitan Museum of Art's famous show, 1969, called Harlem on My Mind. Let's see. He was also part of the movement of black artists creating their own institutions, particularly in the creation of the Studio Museum of Harlem, various art councils, collectives, and even a gallery. Here he is with the founders of the Cinque Gallery, artists Norman Lewis, Ernest Critchlow, and an unidentified guy in the center. Cinque Gallery was a nonprofit exhibition space for artists and curators to develop and display their artwork in New York City. The gallery opened in 1969 and operated well into the early 2000s. Bearden was a caseworker for the Department of Social Services in New York for over 30 years. Many people don't know that. He was a social worker, and one of his beats was working with the Roma, so-called gypsy family population, where he noticed more similarities than differences in people across cultures. Also, as a skilled writer, Bearden sought to insert the legacies of artists into the art canon by co-writing A History of African-American Artists from 1792 to the present. It was published a few years after he passed in 1993 by the co-writer Harry Henderson. It was the case back then, if artists were not covered in the survey textbooks, they simply did not exist. Bearden, a lifelong student of art history, was inspired by world cultures, early 13th century art, Cubism, Northern European Flemish painting, along with African and Chinese art. In journal articles like The Negro Artist in Modern Art, 1934, and The Negro Artist's Dilemma in 1946, Bearden aimed to discuss and assert a relationship between black artists and modern art. Another way to see Bearden's activism was through the art he created. And that is the general theme of this exhibition and what I want to talk about tonight. Most stories about the artist Romare Bearden begin in 1964 with the iconic projection series, named in part because the works were originally created as small collages of colored paper that were mechanically projected into large black and white works. They were made in preparation for the first group showing of the Spiral Group. Works in Black and White was the name of the show in 1965. Bearden, along with 14 other African-American artists, had formed the artist collective Spiral. The group included, among others, Charles Alston, Norman Lewis, Hale Woodruff, Emma Amos, and the great, but only recently passed, Richard Mayhew. Their primary aim was to respond to the March on Washington with art that agitated for change and promoted collective activity. They met and discussed issues of the times and each other's art and planned the group show titled Black and White as symbolic reference to the civil rights movement. It was a tumultuous time. Race relations in the United States had come to a head, and the Great March on Washington was forming. Artists wanted to somehow agitate for social equality through their work, not as propaganda or with protest placard,
but through the assertion of their own visions of life in America, and to have impact together. Out of this call and response, Bearden produced the projection series of collage. They represented scenes of Black life, rural, urban, in a new and creative form. Cut from the pages of magazines like Look, Life, and Ebony, if you remember those big, beautiful format magazines, Bearden combined seemingly disparate elements to create complex characters and narratives. They got a lot of attention for the way they symbolized struggle, but also showed a new perspective. Bearden would also often say he wanted to see how life can triumph through struggle. This cycle of some 20 works begin his career using collage and contains many of the subjects he becomes known for: scenes of music, family, and spirituality. Many viewers saw it as a breakthrough, a break from abstraction that he was just becoming known for in the late 50s, and literally a break with form. And for some, it was a turn to a more overtly political subject matter. But Bearden, in 1969, responds to some of this criticism. The initial public reaction to my work has generally been one of shock, which appears to rise out of a confrontation with subject matter unfamiliar to most persons. In spite of this, it is not my aim to paint about the Negro in America in terms of propaganda. It is precisely my awareness of the distortions required of the polemicist that has caused me to paint the life of my people as I know it, as passionately as Peter Bruegel painted the life of the Flemish people of his day. Bruegel refers to the 16th century Dutch Renaissance painter famous for depicting peasants. He goes on to say, one can draw many social analogies from the great works of Bruegel, as I have no doubt one can draw from mine. My intention, however, is to reveal through pictorial complexities the richness of life I know. If we look for the roots of Bearden's activism through his art, however, we can go much further back to the days in college as a cartoonist for both Boston and New York University student magazines. There is humor and criticism throughout, but it's after graduating from NYU in 1935 and encountering George Gross, the German expatriate artist at the Art Students League, where Bearden's work takes on race and international issues in a much more biting way. As editorial cartoonist for Crisis magazine and the Baltimore Afro-American, still the longest running Black newspaper in existence, still running, his chosen artistic form takes on a forceful, contrasting Black and white attitude. It is important to note that throughout his stint at the Baltimore Afro-American, which was around 1935 to 1937, his cartoons often acted as standalone editorial statements, meaning they were not illustrating other people's ideas. When the artist turns to painting, it is in the vein of American genre that looked at landscape and working people. One of the earliest examples that we have access to is in this show, Soup Kitchen from 1935. So oil on canvas. Uh-oh, I went too fast with that. How did that happen? Okay. Okay. Okay, this is where we need to be. In the early 1940s, the work... Okay. In the early 1940s, the work shows influence by Mexican muralists like Diego Rivera. And I have to just say, I was down at the DIA yesterday, and I saw the beautiful murals, and also the beautiful Bearden mural that's there. Many people don't know. Thank you. Yes, it is looking very good. And it's a wonderful Italian tiled work. So I have a little note about that later. Bearden pictures Southern scenes in simple forms and muted colors. Here he is also showing his influence of African sculptural forms in representing faces of Black people. So that's here. You can see in Visitation, I give a close-up of some of the African forms and how he's starting to begin to simplify planes of color to sort of mimic that idea of African sculpture. Like many of his heroes of art history, he would take his cues from great literature and Christianity, such as Visitation here, but also plenty of Annunciations, Passions of Christ, the Iliad, a poem about a bullfighter by Federico Garcia Lorca. And here I have a sample, of the Iliad work that he was doing, and the Garcia Lorca. At this time, the artist is experimenting with artistic forms, as you can see. Mexican mural painting, cubist planar structure, a stained glass effect even, as some say, and more becoming abstract. You get, if you go back to this one with the, on the left, with the really simplified forms of the figure becoming more and more abstract. Okay, well, it's a little fast. Okay, there we go. So an earlier quote from 1934, Bearden says, I think I have it here, "It is evident that they were included." I mean, when he's talking about African American artists looking at European masters, it's evident that they were influenced by the continental masters. Nevertheless, the art is highly original and steeped in tradition and the environment. And here he's talking too about the Mexican muralists and what they were able to bring to their work. It might be noted here that the best work of these men were done in Mexico of Mexican subject matter. It is not necessary for the artist to go to foreign surroundings, meaning Europe, in order to secure material for his artistic expression. Rembrandt painted the ordinary Dutch people around him, but presented human emotions in such a way that their appeal was universal. So this is where Bearden is when the call comes for the march. And there's a certain urgency, and he turns back to the figure after going through that period of abstraction. In 1964, he says, "I felt that the Negro was becoming too much of an abstraction rather than the reality that art can give us subject." Beginning with the current imaging of Black people in magazines and books, he cuts and pastes elements of faces and builds in cultural references of a complex history and heritage. The southern and northern cities, African sculpture, the church, the blues, baptism, the train, then layers in with the prevalence of rituals, as a term he created, that for him connected people universally. Scenes of family, work, play, baptisms, stoop, and courtyard culture, all creating a reflection of his people as he knew them. And through the 1960s and 70s, his work is called on to represent Black issues in journals and popular magazines. And these are works that are all in the show that you can see. His family was part of the great migration of Black people who left southern cities to escape Jim Crow laws of segregation and racial violence. His own family experienced incidents of harassment. One story Bearden tells is about when he was a toddler and waiting in the arms of his father while his mother went into a store. A mob gathers to question what a Black man was doing with a white kid. Bearden's mother, Bessie, was a fair-skinned but very proud Black woman. She becomes an ardent social and political figure in Harlem, what they call a mover and shaker. She was the New York correspondent for the Chicago Defender publication, a member of the Board of Education, and a well-connected person that got things done. Their apartment in Harlem was often filled with luminaries of the Harlem Renaissance, writers, musicians. Duke Ellington was an early supporter of Romare's work. This is the milieu in which he grows up. So much of the richness of the Harlem Renaissance cultural revolution may be attributed to proximity. Black people of diverse origins, class, and interests crowded together at a time of great racial discrimination stirred a hotbed of creativity. In the 1920s and 30s of Bearden's youth, the defiant sounds of swing and early bebop jazz flowed from the numerous clubs. Bearden speaks about being able to see the musicians at the back door of the Lafayette Theater from his apartment. And later, he could hear the music through the floor of his studio above the renowned Apollo Theater. One of my favorite quotes is from Bearden, that the artist is something like a whale, swimming with his mouth open, absorbing everything until he has what he really needs. When he finds that, he can start to make limitations, and then he really begins to grow. So as an artist, that's always been my favorite quote. One iconic work sought to capture the essence of Harlem is The Block from 1971. It's a 6-panel, large-scale collage that depicts a slice of life on Lenox Avenue. There's the funeral home, liquor store, kids, and through the windows you can see a couple making love. The work was inspired by the block, the Lenox Avenue, between 132nd and 133rd Streets. It was featured in his first major museum exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in 1971, along with a recording of street sounds and gospel music. It is now part of the permanent collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Recently, it was on exhibit in the museum's major exhibition, a new exhibition of the Harlem Renaissance. There are many scenes of Black life throughout Bearden's work, a common narrative thread of the African American landscape. Through the street scenes of Harlem, jazz clubs, and country musicians, baptisms of rural Charlotte and Pittsburgh, to the jewel-like landscapes and life of the Obeah of the Caribbean. His mission was to remember and re-remember life and culture that he saw disappearing. This is the quilting time that's at the DIA. There's power in preserving. Though sifted through his memories, taken in like a whale, he sought to get at some truths, populating his art with pictures of people in ways that countered and combated the stereotypes and distortions by fracturing and reconstructing into something new, which is the very definition of collage. Representing them in beauty was a political act in itself. Another popular series of Bearden, the Odysseus collages, take the epic tale of Homer's Odyssey and gives it a universal dimension. Characters from this story are depicted as black and brown people in colorful locales. And in this way, it becomes an every man's story, every man and every woman's story, that could take place in Africa or the Caribbean, as well as Greece. A quote from Bearden on this series: "It is universal, so if a child in Benin or in Louisiana sees my paintings of Odysseus, he can understand the myth better." The artist made similar links to world cultures through his prevalence of ritual ideas that translate and transport stories from art history and the Bible and relocates them in Harlem and Charlotte, North Carolina. I think it's what makes him unique. He had conversations with historical figures across time and geographic locations and represented humanity using his own experience and capturing it in a two-dimensional form. Not easy if you're an artist, you know that. After he passed in 1988, the artist's wife, Nanette Bearden, established a foundation to preserve and perpetuate his legacy. The Beardens knew the importance of collecting and preserving images, sketches, writings, and his library for younger generations. It is the primary mission of the Romare Bearden Foundation. One such project is the posthumous publication of Little Dan, the Drummer Boy, a civil war story. It takes the artwork and storyline that Bearden wrote himself. He tried to shop it around in the 70s, and there was no interest in it. But Simon & Schuster was able to see the benefit of it, and they published it in 2003. It features a foreword by the scholar Henry Louis Gates and a CD recording read by Maya Angelou. We can see the influence of Bearden's work and appreciation of his legacy in the work of many contemporary artists who credit him for innovative collage techniques, storytelling, and willingness to use their work to advocate for the greater good. Thank you.